Marines, you've just seen some of the greatest natural predators in the world. Their greatest asset is their eyes, which are on the front of their faces, and so are yours. My name is Ivan Carter, and I've been a professional hunter in Africa for the last 20 years. I'm here today to teach you two things. Firstly, to show you how to get the most out of your binoculars, and how essential they are to being an effective hunter. And secondly, and possibly most importantly, to think like a hunter. Being a great hunter means being a great observer. See, assess, and communicate. Marines, use everything you're provided to be a hunter out there. Your ACOGs, your thermals, and your night vision, and particularly your binoculars. Remember, you can't shoot around a corner, neither can you see around a corner. If the enemy can see you, you can see him. People often ask what the numbers mean on binoculars. This pair, for example, is 8 by 30. Well, the 8 refers to the number of times it's magnified. If you take your eyes as seeing it 1, 8 times means it's 8 times bigger. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's clearer. You need to have binoculars with good glass as well. And then the 30, what that refers to is the number in millimeters across the front of the lens. The wider that area is, the better visibility you're going to have in low light, because the better light gathering you've got. So it's very important to get a pair of binoculars with no less than 30 millimeters across the front lens, and 7 or 8 is a great pair for being handheld. You're not going to have a hard time holding them steady. One of the most important things before you even start is to make sure that your binoculars are set to your individual eye focus. And you'll notice that there's a ring that turns that adjusts just the right eye of this particular pair of binoculars. So what you're going to do is you're going to close your right eye and you're going to lift your binoculars up to your eyes, and using the center wheel, choose a point and focus on that. Once that point is perfectly in focus, drop your binoculars. Now you're going to close your left eye, lift your binoculars up, and with the little individual wheel, you're going to focus your right eye. As soon as your right eye is perfectly clear, you can open both eyes and use the center wheel focus, and you'll find that you'll get a very clear picture. Your binoculars have also got an adjustment which is called your eye relief adjustment, where there's eye cups that either twist out or fold out in the case of rubber eye cups. Now what those are for is when you put the binoculars to your face, you'll find that the distance between your eye and the back lens, which is called your eye relief, is very important to get a clear picture. And making sure that you set those little eye cups so that they fit to your eye is very important. Each pair of binoculars is equipped with a center focus wheel that you can move with your forefinger. If you're right-handed, you're going to use your right finger. If you're left-handed, you're going to use your left finger. As you pick your binoculars up to your eyes in any scenario, have your finger ready on that wheel in order to bring it into a quick focus. The distance between your eyes is called your interpupillary distance, and these binoculars have got a very simple setting for that. Simply by pulling them closer together or further apart, when you lift them up to your eyes, what you'll find is that you'll be able to very quickly adjust them to have the exact interpupillary distance, and in turn that'll give you a much clearer sight picture. Burning through bush is a very important application for your binoculars, and what can actually happen is you can have a bush that you absolutely can't see through. As soon as you pick up your binoculars and you focus through that bush, you'll get a very clear idea of what's on the other side of that bush. And of course that makes it a very important application, because it means you don't have to even stick your head around a bush to see what's going on right through that bush. Another really important point is to try to never actually break a horizon, particularly where there's very little vegetation. And that's where your binoculars can really help you, because from several yards back you can lift up your binoculars and burn through the little bit of vegetation on the crest of that hill without actually having to break the horizon of that hill. So you're very much more inconspicuous than having to actually crawl up and poke your head over. Another excellent application for your binoculars, if you're in an area where there's some bullet holes in the side of a wall or a door or anything like that, is that you can push your binoculars right up against the hole and see completely clearly whatever is on the other side. And by doing that, you can avoid actually getting yourself out into the open and exposing your position.
Hey, he's moving. Hey, let's go get him.
Snipers are often hidden deep inside the shadows, and an important application of your binoculars is being able to look deep into those shadows. For example, in a building, when you've got a window that you can't see into with your naked eye, being able to pick up your binoculars and see into that window will enable you to see a threat so that you can make a plan to eliminate that threat. And even up to about 500 yards away, it's amazing what you can see with binoculars, right deep into the building that's impossible to penetrate with your naked eye. Hours and hours of reading every year has meant that when you're looking at things from left to right, take these words for example, your brain will convince you that it's something that it actually isn't. And it's very important when you're scanning with binoculars to scan from right to left because of that very point. Now let's look at the words starting on the right and moving to the left. Exactly the same words make no sense at all. Which means that if you get onto an OP and you've got a scan starting from the right and moving across to the left, taking into account all the places where something might be hiding, is going to be the best way for you to pick up any anomalies, any breaks in the baseline, anything out there that's out of place that might lead you to an indicator that something's out of miss. Take a look at this picture. At a glance, it looks like a couple. Now let's take a closer look. In other words, picking up our binoculars and having a look. And you see when you get it out of that context, it's actually a bunch of dolphins. And it's very important to use your binoculars not to get sidetracked by the context of something. See something for what it is, not what the context is leading you to see it as. And now the application for this is, for example, this guy sitting out here in the woods. He looks like he's completely harmless. You pick up your binoculars and you have a closer look and you find he's actually pretty nervous. He's making a subtle phone call on his cell phone and he's probably somebody who needs to be asked a few questions. Marines, whenever you're given the choice of what direction to move into an area, always try to have the sun on your back. That way, as you look with the sun, you're going to find you get a very much clearer picture. Have a look at this. Looking into the sun, it's actually pretty difficult. You can see a little bit of the detail there, and it's pretty difficult to see. Now, from exactly the same point, let's look with the sun. See all of the detail. And I do understand, Marines, that sometimes you don't have that choice. But if you do have that choice, try and keep in mind the direction of the sun. When you're looking into the light with your binoculars, it may not be possible to shade your own binoculars. So it's very important to communicate that with a buddy and ask him to help shade your binoculars, because even if it's just 10% extra, you'll get a lot more visibility out of that. A great hunter can be summed up in one sentence. It's a great observer. If you fail to observe, you fail to hunt. And if you fail to hunt, you end up the hunted. It's very easy to learn how to be observant, even right here on base. Think of the chow hall. It's a place that should be very familiar. But how many of you really know the details of what's in there? A tear in the ceiling. The name of the guy that's serving you. All of these little details are things that if there's a change, and if we're out in theater, could mean something. Notice what people are doing around you. Take notice of what people are wearing, the kind of watches that they have. As you physically go to get your chow, take notice of what's around, perhaps even if it's as small as a leaky drink machine. Taking notice of these little things will help you learn to start noticing stuff, because if you can be more observant here at home, you'll be a better hunter at war. Marines, being observant doesn't mean just looking for snipers and IEDs. It means looking at all of the indicators, and being observant and trying to notice the indicators, like animals and children, for example. Dogs seldom look up, so if you're ever on an OP and looking over a village or anything like that, and you see a dog wandering around, and then suddenly he stops and looks up, that's something that you need to look at, and that is a great indicator. The same applies to kids, and especially if they've been told not to, or been told to ignore something. That's the first thing they're going to look for. So if you see a kid suddenly stop playing or doing whatever he's doing and look up, or if he suddenly gets hustled into a house, that's something you need to check out. Taking note of the shadows around you is very important, and people will often not take note of where their shadows are falling, and these can give you some great clues. And it's important to just communicate these as soon as you spot something.
Hey, look at that shadow. There's something on the back of that pole.
It's 90!
90% of the failed approaches in my world hunting animals out there are because of one thing: trying to go too fast, not having enough patience. And I think that that applies to your world as well. And I really understand, Marines, that there are times where you can't slow down. You've got to hustle, you've got to get through an area. But if you've got the luxury of having that little bit of extra time, those few little seconds to pick up your binos, really check something out, pick up your thermals and really use them, that really will pay dividends in time. As you're moving through any environment, one of the most important things is keeping the circle of communication, making sure that each member of your fire team knows exactly what he's observing at any given time. That way, all 4 members know what's being seen and what's being done about it, and as a hunting team, you'll be highly efficient.
Hey, you got a hole in the side of the building. Check out your binos.
I got a guy, first floor, 2 o'clock with an RPG.
Marines, you're already warriors. Now use what you know and what you have to be hunters. Be hunters, not reactors. 15,000 proactive hunters at war today would pose a very different threat to the enemy. Remember, see, assess, communicate, and be fully observant. And let's take the fight to them in a way that they have never seen before. Good luck, Marines, and Semper Fi.